Greetings, fellow human, Missy here. And if you are currently going after a really challenging goal or thinking of going after a really challenging goal, and you need some food for thought that will hopefully turn into fuel for action, then I made this video just for you. Now, goal setting is a really big topic in and of itself, and it's one that I would love to make some videos on in the future because I am really passionate about goal setting. But for this video, I want to focus on some things that might help you if you've already set your goal or if you are thinking of it and you just need a little bit of encouragement and help along the way while you go for that goal. Whatever you might be working on or thinking of working on, I hope that at least one of these tips will help you to think about it a little bit differently, maybe change your mindset and help you to think about it as not quite so overwhelming and big and scary and as far more achievable than you're feeling about it right now. And I know, especially at the start when you're still figuring things out, you feel like you have got so far to go. And sometimes it feels like you're not even moving, or maybe it feels like you're even going backwards or you're stuck. Maybe one of these tips will help you if you're in that space right now. When I was thinking about this video idea, I ended up coming up with so many tips that I decided it would be best to break this video up into two parts so that the video in and of itself is not so massive and huge and overwhelming and is hopefully a little bit easier to digest in smaller parts. So without further ado, on to the tips. Tip number one, make sure that your why really matters to you. Have you sat down and really thought about the why for your goal? Why are you pursuing this goal or thinking of pursuing this goal? And been really honest with yourself about the answer. And sure, I mean, the answer may be something really simple. Maybe you are studying for a certain qualification and the answer to your why is that this will further your career or you're really passionate about the subject matter. But if you really go and think about it, maybe it goes deeper than that. Maybe you are studying this particular qualification or thinking about it because you feel like you need to prove yourself to someone else, or maybe even prove yourself to yourself. Or maybe you feel that you'll somehow be more worthy if you possess this qualification, and maybe worthy of what you don't even really know. But in reality, maybe there's something that you're actually far more passionate about, but that's maybe not quite so shiny to you or to other people, that you think might not look as good, might not sound as good, but that is actually far more practical and aligned with who you are. The point here is that when you're going after a really challenging goal, it's so important that your why is aligned with who you are and that it doesn't have to do with anybody else or what they think. It needs to be about you. And that doesn't mean that your why needs to be completely selfish either. Your why can have to do with other people. Like, for example, if you want to start a nonprofit organization, part of your why is going to be the lives that you're going to touch through that organization, the difference that you're going to make to people. But intrinsic to you is your passion for that cause. That needs to be the root of your why because you are so passionate about it. Your why is going to be incredibly important, especially on the days where you are feeling unmotivated, because it might just be the little shove that you need to get going on a day where you are really not feeling it. So even if you think you know what your why is, just take a minute or two, stop and really think about it and dig a little bit deeper. Make sure that you really understand your why. And if your why is not something that's going to drive you forward on a difficult day, then you either need to change your why or you need to change your goal. Tip number two, define what success really means to you and make sure that at least some of it is within your control. Success really does mean different things to different people. And you can think about this a little bit like you did your why in the previous tip. So think about what would it mean for you to be successful in terms of this goal, and also how much of that is actually within your control. We are so conditioned to look to society and our family and friends and the media and social media for what success is. And it takes a lot of courage to sit down with yourself and be very honest with yourself about what success means to you as a person, just as you are, and not looking at all of those outside influences. What does success mean to you? When have you achieved something that is worth being proud of? What tends to happen for a lot of people here is that they set the bar for success based on things that are largely or completely out of their control, or on things that are completely extrinsic to them. Take, for example, the goal that I've set for myself to post a YouTube video every week for a year. Now, I could measure success by how many views I get, how much watch time I get, how many subscribers I have, or the moment that YouTube sends me an email to say that I'm eligible for monetization. All of those things are great, but to me personally, it's not going to feel like success. It's going to feel very hollow because those things, although related to the effort that I put in, are largely dependent on algorithms and things out of my control. So again, it's like a hollow feeling of success if that happens. I'm not going to lie, it would be great to be monetized, but again, is that going to be my measure of success? Another thing to consider for me is that yes, those things are easily measured. I can easily tell when I have achieved something, but they're just numbers, and numbers can creep up. You reach one and then you want to get to the next one and the next one and the next one. And where does it end? Where is success? Where does that lie? So, all that it would do in that case is have me chasing an ever increasing number in a cycle that just doesn't end and doesn't feel satisfying at all. So, as I said, all of those things are great, but for me personally, just not a real enough measure of success. For me, and for my particular goal, I have chosen to measure success as consistently showing up and doing the work, as having fun in the process and putting my authentic mark on everything that I do, improving at least one thing with each video, and trying to make a positive impact to the best of my ability, whether that is ever acknowledged or not. So you may have noticed that all of these things are completely within my control. I am the only one who can make those measures for success happen, and they feel real to me. And they are a wonderful way for me to measure success, even if they are not what you would think of as the norm for measuring success. They're meaningful to me. Now, at this point, you might be asking yourself, isn't that just a cop out? Isn't that just a way to make the bar so low that you can easily just hop or flop over it? Isn't that just a way to give everybody a certificate of participation because we're all winners here? And I'm going to leave that with you to answer and try this for yourself and see what you think. I just know that for me personally, before doing this, I was definitely relying far too heavily on what other people's ideas of success looked like for me, instead of asking myself what success looked like for me. Tip number 3, be prepared to make sacrifices. You are only one person, and you only have so much time and energy and resources available to you on any given day. And for me personally, as a person with shiny thing syndrome, so wanting to get involved in everything and anything that intrigues me, and I want to do it now, and I want to do it well, and I just want to do everything all at once, this whole limited energy, time, and resources thing is really a problem. And maybe this is a problem for you too. And in terms of sacrifices, I'm not talking about sacrificing things like your sleep and your family time and your relaxation time and your mental and physical health. Nothing like that. Those are not the sacrifices that I'm talking about. What I'm talking about here are things that may seem equally as exciting and important as this goal that you're working on, other goals, other pursuits that are also wonderful and have their merits. And I'm also talking about things that maybe feel good in the moment, but are really not adding to your life, like aimlessly scrolling on social media or watching endless episodes of a series. Again, you are only one person, and you need to be very honest with yourself about what you can reasonably fit into a day while still maintaining a balance in your life. So, what things are taking up space that don't need to be taking up space right now? What things do you need to sacrifice to make this goal happen that is so important to you? And as I said, sometimes these are going to be things that are equally as exciting. Maybe it's another goal that is just as exciting, and you may need to choose between the two of them because you're only one person. And even if you do need to put one or two or three other goals on the shelf for now, or put a series on the shelf for now, anything like that, that's okay because you can always come back to it. Work on what you're working on now, focus on achieving your goal, and maintain that balance of all the other good things in your life, like your family and your friends, and sleep and your mental health. You can always pick up the other things that are on the shelf later. And if you do have a habit of scrolling aimlessly on social media, maybe that's one that needs to go from the shelf into the dustbin. Just a thought. And that's a thought for myself as well. Tip number 4, find a way to remind yourself of your goal every day. The saying out of sight, out of mind really applies here, because if you don't have some way to remind yourself of your goal every day, you are going to get to the end of the day or even the end of the week and suddenly remember that you had set this goal and you have done nothing to work towards it because you just forgot. Now, hopefully, you have got some planning and organization in place so that you won't get right to the end of the week and realize that you haven't done anything to work on your goal. But even if you are a really organized person and a really good planner, it is so easy to get lost in the busyness of life. And this is especially true right in the beginning when you are still getting into your groove, where you're still figuring out how to start fitting this goal into your life. So, what I would suggest here is to find at least one way that works for you that you can't help but encounter your goal in your day. So, for example, maybe you set your phone to wake you up with an alarm that's a song that really inspires you, that reminds you of your goal. So, every morning when you wake up, that alarm goes and you think of your goal. Maybe you can make a digital vision board and you can put it on the lock screen of your phone or on your desktop background. Or you could even make a physical vision board and put it up on the wall somewhere where you walk past it throughout the day. Maybe you can have a specific object or a scent that you associate your goal with, and you can have that somewhere in your home or at work where you see it or smell it all the time, and that reminds you of your goal. Or maybe you leave whatever physical object or maybe clothing that you're going to need to pursue your goal in a prominent place where you are going to see it. An example from my life is my goal to drink enough water in a day. And I can do that really easily by just making my goal visible to me. And I do that with this beast that I have right here. And this reminds me to drink water the entire day because it sits there. And even though I am pretty severely visually impaired, it's very hard to miss. And I will see it standing on the counter and just remember, water, and go and have a couple of sips of water, a nice big drink. And there, I have achieved my goal by the end of the day just from having this physical object sitting there and reminding me of my goal. Whereas normally it would have just been out of sight, out of mind in the busyness of life. If you do decide to do this, you can get really creative. Just do what inspires you. Make it multi-sensory. Just anything that you can think of that is going to make your goal visible to you in the day. Tip number 5, have some way to organize everything related to your goal. In the same way that your goal will be out of mind if it's out of sight, the details of your goal will be as well, whether they are big or small details. You are going to need some way to keep all of the planning and information relating to your goal. And I would hazard a guess that, like most human beings, your brain is not going to be a good space for that because you cannot keep track of all of the information, all of the planning, all of the little details, everything that needs to happen, every thought that you have about your goal. It's not all going to stick in your head. You are going to forget things. So it's really important to have somewhere that you keep all of those thoughts together that's not in your brain. You can make use of anything and everything that makes sense for your goal. So it could be as simple as having a little physical notebook that you put everything down in, or it could be a digital notebook where you put down all of the thoughts and ideas and planning that you have. And on the go, maybe you use the app and you can just jot down ideas while you think of them. You may want to use a physical calendar or a digital calendar app to keep track of all of your tasks and deadlines and things that need to get done in a day towards your goal. You could even use a whiteboard to track things, or you could have a habit tracking app to help you track your progress. And just as planning and storing information on your goal is important, it really is important to track progress as well. And a really cute and creative way that I saw this done a couple of years ago was my grandparents wanting to drink more water in a day. And they didn't have a beast of a water bottle like I do, but what they did do is have beans and put the two beans on one tile on the windowsill in the kitchen at the beginning of the day. So every time one of them drank a glass of water, they got to move their bean forward. And at the end of the day, there would be a winner declared or a tie if they had both drunk the same amount of water. And it reminded them, again, like we're saying, remind yourself of your goal every day. It reminded them to do that. So it was a wonderful way to track progress and to gamify their goal. And they were storing all of the information for their goal right there. How many glasses of water they'd had in a day? How many tiles had the bean gone forward? For me personally, I really enjoy using Microsoft OneNote, and that's an app on my desktop and my phone, so it's integrated. I've got it with me wherever I am, and I do all of my planning and tracking and milestones and everything like that in that app. And then I also use my Google Calendar to keep track of tasks and deadlines, things that need to get done in a day, everything like that. And again, it's integrated. It's on my phone, it's on my desktop, it's with me wherever I am, and I can keep track of things like that. So it's all very organized. This is really going to depend so much on your personality and on your specific goal, but really just use whatever is at your disposal. Work smarter instead of working harder. But whatever you do, don't think that you are going to remember little details. Put them down somewhere, write them down. All of those thoughts that you have in the shower, quick, run to your phone, get your note taking app, write them down. You are going to need those, and most of us are not going to remember them if we don't put them somewhere together, organized in a space that's just for our goal. And also keep in mind that the more complex the goal, the more organized you are going to need to be with your thoughts and ideas and planning. Tip number 6, focus your efforts on integration and habit formation. It's so cliche, but something that I have to mention because it's just true that our goal is a destination. It's something to aim for. We need to know where we're going, but the journey is what we need to focus on. That's what's important because that's where all the learning and the change happens. That's where we grow. So even though you do need to set a goal, you do need to know where you are heading for, you need to put your focus and your energy on the journey towards getting there. So that means putting habits and systems in place to achieve your goal. It means integrating your goal into your daily life, making it part of life for you. Thinking about your goal in this way also makes it more real in the moment. It makes it something that is present with you right now instead of something that's so far away and feels very unattainable, especially in the beginning. We reach our goals in tiny increments. We reach them one choice at a time. And something that you can ask yourself to make it more real is, what would someone who has achieved this goal be doing today? How can you start to align with that? How can you start to change your lifestyle and your mindset to fit in with being this person who is going to achieve this goal? So, for example, somebody who's going after a really challenging fitness goal is going to have to find ways to form habits that support that goal over time. So, their exercise and nutrition are going to need to become integrated. They're going to need to have habits around those things to achieve this big goal that they're aiming for. It's gradual, but everything builds on everything else. It's one choice at a time. It's forming those habits. They need to figure out how to make their efforts sustainable and effective. In other words, goals are all about consistently showing up and putting in the work in ways that work for you. And that means that they're going to need to fit in with your lifestyle and your personality and your situation. Otherwise, those things are going to need to change slightly to accommodate the goal. If all you're looking at is the destination, if all you're looking at is that goal that you have in mind, then it's very possible that you're going to end up giving these big leaps of efforts every now and then getting stuck and feeling burnt out, and maybe even taking a couple of steps back, or maybe you even end up quitting because it's just too far away. Going for really challenging goals is definitely not a linear process. It's never going to be. But if you do focus on integration and habit formation, it's going to make that process a lot more fruitful, a lot more enjoyable, and a lot less of a bumpy ride. Tip number 7, minimize the number of decisions that you're going to need to make. When you're going for a challenging goal, it's important to try to make things as easy for yourself as possible whenever possible. And one of the ways that you can do this is by reducing decision fatigue. And what I mean by that is that it's possible for you to put rules and systems in place that help you to make decisions so that you don't need to agonize over them in the moment. And you can also pre-make decisions. So when you have time and energy, you can pre-make some of your decisions so that when you are busy and feeling a little bit more mentally and physically drained, you've already made the decision. You don't need to think about it. You just need to do it. So for me personally, one of my ongoing goals is to include enough movement in my week. And I take a lot of the decision making out of this for myself. So I don't need to deal with those decisions during the week. Usually on a Sunday, I will go onto YouTube and make a playlist of the videos that I want to do that week. So, number one, this helps me to not have to decide what my workout specifically for that day is going to consist of. I don't need to go and reinvent the wheel. There are all these wonderful channels out there with all these amazing workouts, and I can just pick what interests me and what suits me, and I can go and put it on that playlist. And I don't have to think about how many reps of what to do or which order to do them in. It's all done for me. I don't have to think about it. And the other thing is, I don't have to think about when I get to the day which workout I'm doing today. I don't have to go and look for a specific video for that day because it's already there. It's already on the playlist. And I don't need to think about what music I'm going to listen to because the workout videos already have music in them. Everything is there for me. I know exactly what to do. I just click on the video and I do the workout. And I also decide at the beginning of the week how many workouts I'm going to do, roughly what time of the day I'm going to do them. And all of that makes it a lot simpler for me, even when I'm not feeling it, even when I'm not feeling in the mood for movement that day. It's all planned out for me. It's all ready for me. I just need to show up. I just need to go and do it. It makes it a lot simpler. It doesn't make it easy, but it makes it a lot simpler. And yes, sometimes life happens. And for some reason, I won't be able to get to the workout of the day. And that's okay. That's part of going for a goal, flexibility. And we're going to get to that tip later. But at least everything is organized. At least I don't have to think about whether I feel like it or not. It has to be something that really just comes up unexpectedly and actually stops me from doing that workout. Everything is ready, everything is planned, all of the decision making is taken out of it. Having some systems and rules and pre-made decisions can really free up some mental space. And you are going to need that for pursuing your goal because there are going to be other things that need your mental energy. You don't need to be spending it on all of these small decisions that you could be pre-making or figuring out ways to take them out of the equation altogether. Tip number 8, replace labels that don't serve you. You've probably heard of reframing already. So that's putting something in a different way to improve understanding or to get a point across. And this idea is very similar to that in that you're just going to replace any kind of label that you use in relation to your goal that just doesn't sit right with you and it just doesn't work for you for whatever reason. You can get really creative with this and you can swap the label out that's not serving you for something that inspires you and something that aligns with who you are and what you are doing. So for this one, I'm going to go back to the example of me setting a goal to create YouTube videos. And most people who do this call themselves content creators. And there's nothing wrong with that. It's a completely apt label. That's what they do. And it makes a lot of sense and it fits perfectly for a lot of people. But for me personally, it just doesn't sit right with me and it doesn't feel inspirational and it doesn't motivate me at all to put that label on myself. It gives me the feeling of just making something for the sake of making something so that somebody can consume it. It's like having a snack bowl that constantly needs to be filled, and people eat the snacks, and you've got to fill it with more snacks. And it actually doesn't matter what the snacks are as long as you keep the bowl full. And to me, that's what it feels like when I hear the term content creator. And again, I know that that term fits really well for a lot of people, and a lot of people make incredibly valuable content on YouTube. I mean, I can attest to that with my YouTube watch history. I love YouTube and I love content creators who make amazing quality content. But this is my goal, and for me personally, that label just doesn't inspire me. So I gave it quite a lot of thought and I came up with the label of creative encourager for myself. And this is really inspiring to me. I really love this label and it keeps me coming back every week. It keeps me motivated to keep coming up with ideas and filming videos and editing them and giving my best and putting my authentic mark on everything that I do. As I said, that's part of my measure for success. And this helps me to do that. And part of it is creativity. I absolutely love being creative, and doing YouTube videos has given me a completely new way to learn to be creative and to learn to express myself in a way that I've never done before. It's incredible. And the word encourager, I mean, that is just the most inspiring thing to me. It's something that I aspire to be in every aspect of my life. When you look up the definition of the word encourage, you see phrases like give support and help confidence and give hope and inspire with courage. And those are things that I aspire to do in every role of my life. So whether that's as a daughter, as a mother, as a facilitator, as a life coach, whatever that is, I want to be an encourager. So every time I create a new video and I put my authentic mark on it as a creative encourager, it doesn't feel like just making content to be consumed. It really lives up to everything that I want it to be. It really motivates me and inspires me, and again, aligns with those ideas of success that I have, because one of those ideas is putting out something that makes a positive impact, whether that's ever acknowledged or not. Now, this isn't necessary for every single label relating to your goal. This is only for the things that really just don't sit well with you, that just don't align with you, that don't feel right for you. And maybe they feel completely right for another person. But again, this is your goal. It's about you. It's about what inspires and motivates you. So get creative and change those labels for yourself. I know for myself, I've always dreamed of writing a fantasy novel, but I know that my talents do not really lie in that direction. But if they did, I would consider myself a story weaver instead of a writer, and that label would definitely motivate me a lot more. And I also know that a lot of people struggle to get exercise in every day. They find that really, really challenging. And swapping that label out, that exercise label, for something like movement, can be a lot less intimidating. It can make it something that's far more encouraging and inviting to do, because exercise maybe feels like something that always needs to be very sweaty and very challenging, and you need to be having your tongue hanging on the ground and you're sweating and nearly passing out before it's exercise. But that's not the case. Movement is good for your body, and any kind of movement is good. So, swapping out that label can totally change your mindset around whatever goal you're pursuing. So, if you do decide to do this one, I hope that you have a lot of fun with it. And I also hope that you experience a major mind shift along with the label change. Tip number 9, make peace with the fact that nobody is going to care about your goal as much as you do. This one for me personally was a really tough lesson to learn. I am a recovering people pleaser and overachiever, and as someone with those tendencies and that type of past, I always felt the need to prove myself somehow with my goals. I felt like if nobody noticed, like, did it even matter? I really felt like I needed some kind of validation from the people around me, just something, even for them to take even a little bit of interest in what I was doing. And otherwise, it just didn't feel like it was worth anything. And that had a lot to do with the way that I thought about myself. And now I think about goals a lot differently. They are for me. And I realize that it's okay if nobody notices. It's okay if nobody's clapping. It's very, very rare that you are going to have someone in your life who gets really excited about your goals and cheers with you and celebrates you and encourages you. And if you have someone in your life like that, that's fantastic. Hold on to that person. And also, if you can be that person for someone in your life, be that person. It is incredible. It is so wonderful to have that kind of encouragement and support. But the reality of life is that people are busy, people are so focused on their own stuff. And sometimes, even the people that you would think would be behind you, would be supporting you, would be encouraging you, would be taking at least some kind of interest in your goal, are the people who just don't. They just don't see it as something that's important. And as I said, that's something you need to make peace with. This is your goal. It's important to you, and that's what matters. Please, whatever you do, do not be discouraged if you are the only person who's excited about your goal. Please just encourage yourself then. Be there for yourself every step of the way. Speak kindly to yourself as you go through this process of achieving your goal. Because when you learn to let go of this idea that somebody needs to be watching and somebody needs to be clapping and be enthusiastic for you and excited for you, it's actually quite freeing. Because for the first time, you can truly run and dance and sing like nobody is watching. And again, something that is just really personal to me is that realizing this and letting go of the opinions of other people and the need for their approval has really helped me to align myself in terms of my faith, in terms of what I feel like God is calling me to do, and in knowing that the only opinion that actually matters to me personally is His. Tip number 10, protect your goal because it's very unlikely that anybody else will. This one is all about defining and enforcing boundaries. You are responsible for you, and you're going to need to put some boundaries in place so that you can be disciplined and so that you can stick to the things that you tell yourself you're going to stick to. And you're also going to need to communicate and enforce boundaries with other people in order for you to prioritize your goal. Now, I'm not saying to be completely narcissistic about your goal here. Like it's just you and your goal, and that's all that matters, and everything else in your life just needs to fall into place, and everyone else in your life needs to fall in line. That's not the case. What I'm saying is that without reasonable boundaries in place, boundaries with yourself and boundaries with other people, you aren't going to get very far with your goal. Let's take the example of somebody wanting to write a novel, but they're also working full time and managing the rest of their life. That person is going to need to enforce boundaries for themselves. And those boundaries might look like having a bedtime that they stick to and not working late into the night so that they can cope with their job and cope with their writing in the evenings. Their boundaries might look like a certain amount of writing time every evening that they go by themselves and they go and write. A boundary with other people might be communicating that writing time to them, communicating that within those times they will not be available, that they are working on their novel. So maybe between 7 p.m. and 8:30 p.m. every evening, that is their writing time and they're unavailable, and sticking to that boundary communicating it, and then protecting your goal by protecting that boundary. Nobody is going to be there forcing this person to go to bed at a certain time or to actually use their writing time for writing, or not catching up on a series in that time because they feel like they have writer's block. Nobody's going to force that person to live a balanced life and to still spend time with their family and keep things in balance. Those are all boundaries that this person would need to set for themselves, with themselves and with other people. And if they're not firm about that writing time with other people, they are going to be faced with constant interruptions. For boundaries with yourself and with other people, remember to be kind but firm. As I said in the beginning of this video, I had so many ideas when I was thinking about this topic, and I decided to split the video into 2 parts. So when part 2 is up, I will link it in the description below, and that will be 10 more ideas for if you are going for a challenging goal to help you along the way. Are you working on a challenging goal right now, or are you thinking of starting on a challenging goal? If you feel comfortable, I would absolutely love to hear about that in the comments. And I would also love to hear any of your tips for working on challenging goals. If you've gained anything from this video, please leave a like. And if you would like to see more from me, please subscribe so that you don't miss out. And if you would like to work with me as your life coach, I turn warriors into warriors, and there is more information on that in the description below. Until next time, remember that you, fellow human, can do difficult things and achieve challenging goals.